Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here.
And I'm Mighty the Armadillo here, and welcome you all back for once again for the Maxi Toys videos.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario Slam Basketball for those of you who lived in the UK, aka Mario Hoops 3-on-3 for those of you who lived in North America, aka Mario Basketball 3-on-3 for those of you who lived in Japan, for the Nintendo DS. So I believe in last Sunday, we did somehow manage able to unlock the final 3 extra levels for the sake of the forms of not only Sunset Beach, but also Glare Desert, and especially notable with the forms of Narborough Garden, which we did take a look at the 3 extra levels. Then basically it's all likely cosmetic versions of the already existed stages, except with the forms of Glare Desert, because obviously in addition to that, we somehow stumbled across the final unlockable character in the game, known as Kikatata. So yeah, pretty cool stuff I must say. So today, this is going to be the finale video of Mario Slam Basketball Let's Play, and to start things off, we'll show you off the forms of the dribble race. Now, as far as the dribble race is concerned, basically we have a choice between 2 different stages at the moment. There is technically the 3rd unlockable stage, but at the moment we can go into Peach's Castle or Sunshine Road. So in some cases though, yeah, basically in dribble race, it's like a time trial syndrome, where basically though is the fact that your objective is pretty simple in dribble race, is that you obviously need to dribble the ball onto the actual question mark panels, and it's your job to able to collect 100 coins. And once you collect 100 coins, you simply make your way to the end of that particular course, and vice versa though really, depending on what stage you go into. So for instance, in Peach's Castle though, as you can see, we actually need to avoid Koopa shells from the actual pipes, and it seems more likely a simple, straightforward stage. But as you can tell, about the fact of the matter is though, I believe in order to able to actually unlock the 3rd stage, which I'm not going to mention about this right now, but we'll get to that as soon as we're able to actually just unlock that, is by the fact that you need to beat a certain amount of time on certain stages. Although, unfortunately though, we didn't beat the exact time record in Journey Forms of Peach's Castle though, because we're literally off by 2 seconds. Well, mind you, because it's been about a week since we actually last played this, because thanks to the forms of in yesterday's video, all about the forms of how the fact that thanks to Princess Zelda, that she's now part of the team of the Maxi Toys, that she somehow managed able to did done the updated version of the PlayStation Games Collection, specifically PlayStation 1, because obviously we can able to catch up on the forms of the actual game collections, because I'm pretty sure the last time we did done the video game collection video was actually back on the forms of the 10th anniversary special for the Wii U, despite the fact that the Wii U itself is a massive flop. But I'm sure that Zelda has already mentioned about that during the course of yesterday's video for something like that. So obviously, as you can see, we're actually going to be selecting the final playable character in the game, which is of course Kikatata, and his type was the speed type, meaning about the fact that he runs ridiculously fast, which is obviously a kind of a cool type to able to utilize with, especially that he runs significantly faster. So yeah, it's all pretty cool, all things considered. So now let's move on to Sunshine Road, where basically though in this particular stage, I believe we do need to avoid those tires rotating. Well, I've no idea why I say tires, but that's only mainly because I can definitely tell with that particular black stuff that is actually represented for. So anyway, so a few things we want to explain while this is happening is that, well, today's date is of course is the 5th of February today, in this case in 2023 today. Naturally, about the fact of the matter is though, I believe we've only just got about, is it like 19 days to go or something like that, Mighty, until, you know, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is going to be releasing on the Switch?
I suppose so anyway, because other than the fact that we are still relatively super excited about that particular title alone,
in addition to that particular stuff though, is the fact that we actually got a lot of topics we'd like to mention though, but first of all though is the fact that we'll just let Mighty concentrate on this particular stage, because what makes this stage a bit tricky though, not able to beat the time record, is the fact that the actual the spacing between yourself or the actual spinning tire kind of stack it's kind of feels a bit cramped up in certain spots. But either way though, but at the very least you did complete the stage, except the fact that you didn't beat the actual time after all. So, relatively speaking though, I think you have to do this for like the second attempt, because relatively speaking though, unlike any forms of how it does it in Peach's Castle, that you did 3 attempts, because you made that one tiny mistake during the course of the forms of in the first stage in Dribble Race. So, and also something's worth noting for is the fact that every time when you get hit by the forms of certain hazards, likely shells or stack of tires as you can tell, or black bars potentially, basically though is the fact that you lose coins, just like in the forms of how it does it on the main game. So just be careful of not able to get run over, or in some cases do not get hit by the forms of how the fact that, well, generally speaking though, you have to able to just be fast on that part, just to ensure that you will escape in time. So either way though, relatively speaking though, thankfully Mighty did somehow pull this off. So, anywho though, so once you've completed both of those stages, mind you, we need to able to head back, mind you, because something tells me that if we somehow select any of those characters on screen, for instance we'll put Yoshi in there, basically the stage hasn't been unlocked yet, because in order to do that, we need to head back to the main menu, and then you can able to actually access the third stage, which means we're able to show this off right now. So, and as far as the other extras we can show this to you is the fact that we'll show off the unlockable methods for different cosmetic balls that we can able to obtain. So anyways, here we go onto the final stage in Dribble Race, which is Rainbow Road. Not to be confused as the famous tracks from Mario Kart, except the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, you simply get out able to dribble the ball and then you make your way to the end of a goal, something like that. So, and obviously, similar to the forms of how it does it on Bowser Castle from the actual main stage, that not only do you have to avoid those lava bubbles, but this, for some reason, it's all blue instead of the usual red, but also there's actually those weird looking bombs, which, you know, with these little freaky-ish faces, they did show up. Well, basically though is the fact that this is basically it's just Bowser Castle Mark II, except the fact that, well, it takes place in Rainbow Road, so relatively speaking though, it's just about the fact that it's definitely is one of the hardest stages to go for the best time record. And I think in order able to get the best time record on this level, I'm pretty sure you have to beat it for under a minute, so definitely nowhere near as, like, come close to that particular fruition. So, unfortunately though, this is the only stage we have to able to skip the actual, the new record time, just because this is actually pretty tricky, so, but I digress. And as far as I'm aware, generally speaking though, you can still able to actually play this particular Dribble Race as in multiplayer, but however though, since that we play this on the Wii U Virtual Console re-release, there's no way you can play multiplayer, so yeah, it's a bit of a bummer though, especially because considering about the fact that, oh no, get those coins! Ah, those bombs just trying to screw you up. So yeah, you need to be fast able to actually grab those coins again, just to ensure that, well, as far as I'm aware, this is the worst result so far. Because meaning about the fact that we spent about, I don't know, 1 minute and 38 seconds and 19 milliseconds. But either way, that's how Dribble Race works. So yeah, pretty much something to behold, I guess. So anyway, so the next thing we'll show off is that we need to head back into tourney mode after the events whenever we do somehow manage to able to unlock, you know what I mean, with Glare Desert. And what do I mean by that though, is the fact that despite certain matches might take a bit of forever to able to jump right into, basically though is the fact that the next cosmetic ball we do need to unlock is you need to able to complete the Star Tourney mode with the forms of, well, at least in any of those matches or something like that. Basically, you only need to use these special shots in order able to make it count, so that way you can get another one of those cosmetic balls. So, yeah, sometimes though about the fact that this is the reason why it took so long to able to actually get this video going, just because of the actual unlockable requirements. But again, the only 2 cosmetic balls we can never obtain for this particular Let's Play, which, if I recall correctly, there are the Rainbow Ball and the Pumpkin Ball. So those two balls are only accessible if you do manage to play multiplayer stuff. But again, if you haven't played this on the Wii U Virtual Console version, these two balls are unobtainable, meaning about the fact that there's no way you can able to obtain those. So the only way you can able to obtain them is to get the original copy of the game, and if someone else managed able to obtain their copy of the game, then you can able to play multiplayer and stuff like that, and that way you would assume that you would be able to actually access to any of those two of those remaining balls. And by the way, that Warrior's Face quote was actually brought back from the likes of the forms of Warrior Master of Disguise. Don't remind me, Ray, because you know how the fact that I felt incredibly sorry for, well, you know what I mean about the fact that some toy sales who actually experienced that game and, they just suffered from a lot of headaches during that specific point. I think it was, Sonic, potentially, so, the most annoying thing about this is, though, is the fact that every once in a while computer players loves to able to block your, partner's, movement while trying to pull off a special shot sometimes, but either way, though, still, it can be rather, like, difficult sometimes when it comes to participating in, you know, start turning in mind. Because I can assure you that it's more likely the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, for this point, mighty, is the fact that this is not the final time we're going to be seeing Bowser's Castle in action, because there is technically another unlockable requirement that it might take a very long time to able to actually just to get into that particular stuff, but either way though, because usually relatively speaking though, in addition to able to actually like, you know, need forms of in the exhibition mode, where basically though is the fact that not only you can able to actually set those CPUs onto weak computer players or normal behavior or tough or even pro, but well, mind you, that level 6, which is pro, that you do need to unlock once you manage able to completely done with the forms of the rest of the tourney mode. So, but I digress. So basically though, that you can also set the time and also how much periods you want to set. However though, unlike in the forms of how it does it in the forms of in Mario Sports Mix, that basically though you can actually set up to 1 period, or potentially more than that. Whilst in this game though, the only number of periods you can only set up to, which are 2 and 4, so there's no 1. So meaning about the fact that, potentially speaking though, it can take a very long time to able to get this process going, especially mainly because about the fact that, well, thankfully though, it doesn't have that much loading screens, I don't think, unlike the forms of how it does it in Mario Sports Mix in mind. So either way though, that might be saying something, so... And as you can tell, we're using the exact same combination as the forms of how it does it since we actually unlock Glare Desert. So, just thought I might as well able to bring this up, just to ensure about the fact that we could potentially try to able to just see some more characters in action. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about that. Well, mind you, for this point, mighty, is the fact that I'm pretty sure we've actually seen every single playable characters in action. So, yeah, there's no need for able to actually just go whatever which character we want to go for. So, yeah, that's what I can really say about this for the most part right here. So yeah, a few things we want to explain is the fact that, do you guys even remember about the fact that since we've now finally got ourselves SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake on multiple platforms in some scenarios, unfortunately though is the fact that that particular game receives very mixed reviews. Well, nothing horrible per se, but I do know for one thing in mind, is the fact that, well, at least thankfully though, that Nintendo Live, or Nintendo Live, managed able to actually receive the score as in 8 out of 10, because I can assure you, it is a really good follow-up to the forms of how it does it in Battle for Bikini Bottom. But as far as other reviewers are concerned, well, I'm looking at you, IGN, because once again, they somehow managed to done it again when it comes to this massive criticism. Especially noticeable because, relatively speaking, that do you guys even remember back in the forms of been 3 years ago when IGN did somehow reviewed, you know, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated? Well, basically though, is the fact that the actual review scores in the Cosmic Shake is pretty much exactly identical to Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. So basically this means it receives a score of 5 out of 10. And I was like, I just got my face palmed whenever I see this. Especially, well, at least the good thing about that game though is that it has some tons of references from any other SpongeBob cartoons past, which, as a result of that kind of stuff though, I'm just getting sick of the forms of IGN's review scores nowadays. But either way though, that's as far as saying something, so... And speaking of those review scores, as far as I'm aware, with 4 of those versions, what I do found out, that basically though is the fact that apparently though, that the Switch version did somehow receive a higher score, apparently, out of those 4 versions of the game. Because mind you about the fact that despite we haven't got the Switch version, just because I've heard about the forms of some rough around the edges at some form or another, just like in the forms of how it does it in Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated. But as a result of that kind of stuff though, we still honestly go for the PlayStation 4 version just because, well, usually relatively speaking though, it's just about the fact that I'm used to with the actual PS4 controller with SpongeBob games, or even PlayStation controllers as a matter of fact, so... Anyway, so as you can tell, we somehow once again won the Star Tourney, just to ensure that we will be able to get this great reward if you do manage to able to only pull off a special shot, not able to win that particular, you know, the tourney itself, where basically you get yourselves a new Star Ball. Yeah, I'm not saying for this point, it's literally like a Star Ball. So basically that is the fact that you can now able to use that at any point. So... And the next unlockable we'll go for is the fact that we'll go for a combination of Bowser and Bowser Jr. and Birdo at the same time. Well, originally though, we were expecting that we were able to actually go back to Bowser's Castle for the final time, but let's go for the chronological order, shall we? Like, for instance, let's head back into Daisy Garden for the final time, because another one of those cosmetic balls needs to be unlocked if you're able to experience certain stages in Exhibition Match. So, relatively speaking though, thankfully we did set the timer for about a short amount of time. Well, mind you about the fact the matter is though, we still need to able to go through 2 periods, whilst unlike in the forms of how it does it in Mario Sports Mix, that basically though you can set up to 1 period, which I always appreciate about that. So, to make things a bit more, you know, shorter, assuming if you want to unlock everything in Mario Sports Mix, where it comes to like, you know, replaying through several of matches all over again, or in some cases though, just manage to able to unlock certain stages, depending on what sport you're able to actually participating in for. But then again, we'll point things out whenever we get to that particular redo Let's Play at some point, so... But I digress. So... Yeah, anyway, because from what I've seen, the actual Metacritic review score-wise for all of these 4 versions of, you know, SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake, well, I do found out about the fact that the PC version did somehow receive the game as in 68 out of 100, so it was okay. And PS4 version received 66 out of 100, which I was expecting more, and the Xbox One version, for some reason, they just somehow managed able to receive a lower score, which I honestly have no idea why they received the score so low. And as I said before, the Switch version gets the highest rated version of that particular game, as in 71 out of 100. So, pretty strange kind of thinking about it, especially because, well, usually I'm having a great time with the game, as I mentioned about this countless amount of times before. But either way though, that might be saying something, but apparently though, that I mentioned this before, I'm so sick of the forms of looking up on IGN reviews now, especially that the actual description it did say, is that they did say this bare bones platformer manages to be supremely boring despite its SpongeBob infused charm. So yeah, that's as far as I can usually try to able to get my double facepalm whenever I did saw that happen. So anyway, so the next thing I want to mention is the fact that this particular live-action adaptation of One Piece, based off from the animated series, is actually getting its release until this year, only on Netflix though, just like in the forms of how it does it on Sonic Prime, and especially noticeable with My Little Pony Make Your Mark, which despite the fact that it's been ages since I actually last watched Make Your Mark series, as a matter of fact, clearly because about the fact that I'm afraid to tell you is the fact that as far as we already said this countless amount of times, I believe for our experience of Generation 5 is dying down very easily, especially it's bad enough about the fact that we have to wait for a long amount of time to able to actually wait for certain episodes to come. Well, mind you, the last episode we did sort of receive, and that is the Forms of the Christmas Holiday Special, which is of course Winter Wish Day. So either way though, that's as far as saying goes, we just somehow sadly give up on the Forms of this entire, you know, Generation 5 sadly, just because about the fact that it's not my cup of tea anymore. But that's just me. And also another thing we'd like to mention is that unfortunately though, there's some bad news to tell you, and that is something to do with the forms of something related to the Xbox 360 front, that basically though, that they somehow received the actual service update on Xbox 360 store changes. Like, it's gonna start until specifically in 2 days time, where basically, in starting the February the 7th in 2023, a limited set of games, add-ons, and in-game content will no longer be purchasable in select markets via the Xbox 360 store. While you will still be able to play discs or previously downloaded games on your Xbox 360, so this might actually worries me for a little bit, because relatively speaking, when it comes to like, I don't know, Sonic 06 DLC, or Sonic Unleashed DLC, or Sonic Generations DLC, or even especially noticeable with the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1 and Episode 2, will be delisted, which we haven't exactly found out for ourselves, because relatively speaking though, I haven't exactly touched upon my Xbox 360 for some time. But luckily for you though, Mighty, I believe most of those Sonic games have not been listed for delisting it. So there are actually quite a few Xbox 360 games is about to get delisted for the likes of the forms of the actual Xbox 360 store. Like for instance, there is Echoeless Wing, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4, Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, Blood of the Werewolf, Blue Dragon, Breakdown, and as well as Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, Call of Duty Ghosts, Castle Crashers. Oh god, that might actually upset, let's just say Stuart for that part, because relatively speaking though, he might actually be looking forward to able to actually playing that game again, but on the Xbox 360 system. But it turns out about the fact that, yeah, I'm assuming for this point is about the fact that future must go on. Well, at least you're still able to actually experience Castle Crashers thanks to the forms of the actual remastered version of the game on the Switch, or the Xbox systems, or the PS4 systems. But relatively speaking, though, that's what I can really ask for. So, anyway, as well as cloning Clyde, Counter-Strike Go, Dark Souls, Darksiders 2, Daytare USA, Defense Grid, It's Showdown, Far Cry 2, Final Fight Double Impact, Iron Brigade, I think that's what it says anyway, Jeremy McCuff, Off-Road, I think that's what it says anyway as well. Unfortunately, Jet Set Radio is about to get removed on the Xbox 360 version, which I know for a fact that mainly because I'm more into the forms of the much more of a successful like Sonic Adventure 2 and Night into Dreams, which I don't think, well, thankfully though, that both Sonic Adventure 2 and Night into Dreams are not being delisted, I'm hoping for anyway. That's because basically though, it's about the fact the matter is though, we're just, well, felt so sorry for the forms of certain games is about to go away for a certain amount of times. Well, at least thankfully you can still able to actually get certain, we can still able to actually get certain games from physical form, but it's just about the fact that with digital stuff, including digital only versions of certain titles, well, this is going to be pretty sad, because I can assure you the future is gone bleak at this point, especially because, well, for those we all do have some very good old time memories for certain stuff, well, suffice to say about the fact that unfortunately the past console shops is about to be able to become dead onto the actual gravestone, to be able to miss out on quite a number of things, ranging from you know what I mean, the amount of titles they've got, so... But I digress. So let's get back into the forms of that, the number of games will be delisted for the Xbox 360 store. Like, there's also, Left 4 Dead 1 and Left 4 Dead 2, and also, Lambo, Lost Odyssey, and also Mass Effect 2, Monopoly Deal, Mutant Blobs Attack, and as well as N+, and Outpost Kaloki, I think is what it says anyway, X, and Poggle 2, Phantom Breaker Battlegrounds, Prince of Persia, RUSE, and also Sega Vantage Collection, which is Alex Kidd and Crew, I think is what it says anyway, Skate 2, South Park, The Stick of Truth, Spankly, I think is what it says anyway as well, I guess, and Splinter Cell, Confaction or something, and there's also Star Wars Battlefront 1, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, and the Orange Box, which not only does it contain Half-Life 2, but also Portal, but also Team Fortress. So, yeah, it seems very bleak at that point. And there's also The Raven Episode 1, and finally The Witcher 2. So, yeah, I believe those games were about to be, be gone until 2 days' time or something. So, yeah, it's pretty sad though. But at the very least though, luckily though, is the fact that we actually gonna be, playing some Sonic stuff during at some point later on today. Oh yeah, because relatively speaking, we actually decided able to go back on playing Sonic Dash because there was actually another cosmetic character that we did somehow unlocked just recently. And that's what appears to be by the forms of Lunar Blaze, which is basically it's like a Chinese outfit for Blaze the Cat, which I can assure you this is actually based off from Chinese New Year, despite the fact that we've already got Chinese New Year from the past few days ago. I mean, relatively speaking though, I did have a great time with the forms of having some Chinese food and stuff like that, which, relatively speaking though, hopefully we're able to do this again. Specifically, until in next year, in 2024, that it will be the Year of the Dragon, so... Anyway though, and by the way, I just really like the actual losing animation for Katata, because every time when he doesn't seem to able to win anything, basically he just drops dead like the actual ragdoll or anything, or in some cases though like a plushie toy or something. But even then though, I found this to be very humorous at times, so... And as you can tell, we've actually unlocked another cosmetic ball. So in some cases though, I think, relatively speaking though, that it feels like we've almost done with the forms of most of those cosmetic balls anyway. Well, mind you, I think there was only 3 of them left so far. Well, technically, there was 5 empty slots at this point. Well, as I said before, there was no way we can able to obtain both the Rainbow Ball and the Pumpkin Ball. So relatively speaking though, as you can tell, we're actually going to be able to do something completely different in Rainbow Ship. Because, as you can tell, we actually did switch off every single question mark panels. Which meaning, it's basically an old school basketball syndrome with no Mario items or anything. So it's all like a classic mode or something like that. So, yeah, because as you can tell, that's the reason why we have to go for this setup. It's most likely because there's another cosmetic ball you do need to unlock if you manage to able to only play this stage. So, yeah, because basically though, in order able to get that cosmetic ball, basically though is the fact that we need to play this stage without any coins or items, or hell, even especially noticeable without any question mark panels to be found. So, it makes things a bit tricky though. Well, mind you about the fact that every time you dunk the ball, basically though, you get yourselves 2 points instead of the usual like how many points you're expecting to get, depending on how much coins you'd be getting. And as you can tell, there's no coins symbol with all the top left and top right corners of the actual top screen. So, well, aside from the fact that you can also able to actually receive 3 points if you manage able to actually just to toss the actual ball in the furthest away from the basket. So, well, mind you about the fact that, well, potentially speaking, this will be the last time we're going to be seeing Rainbow Ship, because as far as I'm aware, yeah, we're almost done with this game at this point right now. Well, mind you about the fact that there are some missing content we would like to show off, like, as I said before. We would have liked able to show off some multiplayer elements here and there, but unfortunately though, I don't think we've got enough time to do so. But regardless of such though, we actually did have a lot of fun with this game, believe it or not, despite the fact that they did have some bit of frustration involved, to be more specifically how the controls laid out. In addition to that though, the actual AI opponents, or the actual the AI in the game can sometimes feel a bit too much for my liking. But regardless of such though, we did have a great time with this game, especially now we've actually completed the game for reals during the course of an ourselves. So, anywho though, seriously, it's so weird without any of those power-ups to be found. Well, at least we can only do this for one time, and that is of course in this stage because of the forms of that particular description in mind. So, either way, that's saying something.
And I suppose the next thing I want to mention though is the fact that, speaking of the forms of something else is about to be turned up, that is the fact that with those DC films, as far as I'm aware, between both Batman and Superman, that both of those things are about to be coming out at some point in 2025. So it's like 2 years time basically. So yeah, because believe it or not though, we're able to actually just to receive, you know, not only the sequel to the 2022 film, but also, like, not the origin story, but it's more specifically, it's like, well, I don't know about you, it's most likely focuses on Superman balancing his kryptonite or something like that. Mind you, I haven't exactly looked on that particular description for it. So basically, though, we're able to actually receive Batman Part 2 is about to be on its way until in 2025, like what Mighty has already mentioned this earlier. That's going to be releasing in June at some point on the 3rd of October in 2025. So, yeah, pretty cool to be able to have that sequel to the one of the most greatest films in 2022. So, either way, that's saying something. And as far as Superman is concerned, obviously Superman is getting its this film during the films of 2025 as well, and it's called Superman Legacy, and that film is going to be releasing until the July of the 11th of 2025. So yeah, time will tell, especially noticeable because relatively speaking though, that despite the fact that we haven't watched that much of DC movies potentially, because I know for a fact that I've heard some good ones for sure, like The Dark Knight, and on top of that, the original Superman, as far as I'm aware, and heck, even especially noticeable with the forms of, well, despite the fact that we find, you know, some of them are, well, I don't know, mixed bag, or some cases executed very poorly. Like, for instance, there's the forms of the 4th Superman, apparently, which I believe that is by far the worst received films. During the forms of back in long time ago, you know, with the forms of, you know what I mean, about the fact that despite we haven't watched that much of those DC superhero movies, potentially, so I don't know about you though, but either way, that's just the way how it is, I guess. So I believe you can still also utilize the actual special shots on here, but for the most part, I think we actually somehow set those CPUs as in somewhat aggressive mode, likely the forms of tough mode. But either way, we did somehow win in this particular match, so that means we're able to get ourselves another cosmetic ball. Speaking of another cosmetic ball though, is the fact that we totally forgot about that one thing in mind. That is the fact that you have to able to finish up the rest of the practice mode before you're able to unlock another new color ball. So that's the only thing I did not expect you to see that. But either way though, that might be saying something as far as I'm aware. Which basically means, now generally speaking though, we've already went through most of those practice modes within, like, not only with the forms of somewhat offense but also defense as well, but we haven't exactly done part 2 variations of not only offense but also defense as well. So yeah, unfortunately though, despite the fact that we've already learned certain mechanics throughout the majority of tourney mode, unfortunately though, we have to able to go for this entire tutorial mode by the very end of this particular let's play, which is a bit anticlimactic when it comes to likely having something like this, but it's just about the fact that we just want to get this over and done with before we move on to the last unlockable thing, before we're done with this Let's Play for reals, So this one right here is the fact that we need to charge up our shot and then just trying to score into the basket. Well, sometimes though you have to be so accurate with all that, you know, sliding your stylus and all that stuff. Well, potentially speaking though, that's as far as I can usually try to ask for, so... And by the way, I just still really love the fact that, well, every time whenever you get into those training sections or practice sections, basically we get ourselves a cool variation on 3-on-3 theme music in the background, especially because, well, we generally heard about it during the forms of the credit sequence from, after when you finish up with the forms of the Rainbow Tourney mode, either the normal mode or the hard variations, but either way though, I will say it does look pretty catchy to listen to, so... Anyway though, so the next thing I want to mention though is the fact that apparently though is the fact that at this point in time that when it comes to like cartoons and stuff like that, apparently though we go into the forms of too many reboot territory, which I'm not exactly sure why I did somehow explain all this, because basically someone actually mentions about the fact that we're about to able to getting ourselves too many reboots during the course of in the future years to come, which as a result I've got no words to say. Well, apart from the fact I don't usually watch that too much of rebooting stuff, because mind you, I'm more nostalgic to the forms of other shows in the past. Well, relatively speaking though, that's what I can really ask for, so... Oh, come on, why can't I just learn this move? I've already done it before in the actual main game. There we go. God, that took long enough to able to get for that particular segment. But anyway, now let's move on to the next part, which is do a trick, so... Which I think we somewhat briefly done that during the course of I would say in the extra stages for that front. So, potentially we just need able to get past through Wario. So, yeah, every time whenever you go into the training or practice section, you obviously always take control of Mario, whilst compared to Wario, he's basically a CPU player. So, something to keep in the mind with all that consideration, so... And I think this is now the final section of Offense Part 2, and that is Direct Passing. So, relatively speaking, though, you have to simply just, well, pass it to each other while holding down the L button to do it. So, and basically we have to do this 4 times, despite the actual fast reaction times wasn't exactly that quick. But you can still able to make it count though, because obviously if we didn't make any if we did make mistakes like that, basically though is the fact that it still counts as you somehow achieved it. So, yeah, that pretty much does it for the Offense Part 2. Now let's go ahead and wrap things up with Defense Part 2. So, relatively speaking though, because relatively speaking, that we've already did somehow manage to pull this off, but the only thing we haven't pulled this off though, is the forms of the actual block steal ability, which... we'll probably get into that during whenever we do somehow block Wario for about 20 seconds, so despite he did somehow caught us off on guard, so... whoops. So, anywho, there's another thing I would like to mention though, is the fact that when it comes to forms of Resident Evil 4 Remake, apparently though, is the fact that they somehow going to remove the quick time events and they somehow added in side quests, so... yeah, that's gonna be an interesting change, especially considering about the fact that a lot of people seem to don't really care about quick time events. Well, mind you, because you have to get fast reaction times when it comes to button inputs and stuff like that. I might be alright with this, although mind you about the fact that, well, we haven't exactly got Resident Evil 4 in our own time. Well, we were expecting to get the Wii version to make things a much more of a superior version or something. Well, mind you, it's about the fact that it's been a very long while since I actually looked upon something related to Resident Evil 4, but either way though, that's all I can say about it. So, and in fact, no matter what though, is the fact that not long now until Resident Evil 4 Remake on the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X is going to be releasing. So, yeah, time goes by very quick, don't you think? Yeah, which is obviously kind of true, so... yeah, this is the only move that we haven't exactly learned during the course of the actual tourney mode, because somehow we got distracted by the forms of collecting more coins to able to rank up more of those points as much as we can. Because of, you know, the actual gold trophies we need to obtain during the course of in the tourney mode, which we've already done for about 8 run-throughs. So, anywho, so let's go ahead and deal with this particular drop steal by simply ground pounding it towards Wario after when he deserves that from that Wario Master of Disguise game, which somehow gets like very, very mixed reviews on. So, but I digress, enough about that jibby jabber, because now we can able to do some side steps. So, yeah, everything else will be pretty much accounted for that. You know, the rest of the tutorials and all that stuff, so not much else to add. Unfortunately though, there are some sad news to tell you. That is the fact that for those 3 people, what I've noticed is that, well, one of them did somehow die due to the forms of stroke, and her name was Lisa Lorraine. And, yeah, she's one of those actresses that she did done, I would say, that she was played during the forms of in, the original Wednesday Addams, from the likes of in 1964 all the way up to 1966, and, yeah, it's pretty sad to able to see her go. And, that was it for the forms of the actual practice section, and once you're done with the rest of the practice section, you were able to actually unlock the next cosmetic ball, but there was that one last unlockable thing we might also show this off, and I think I highly suggest you go into Mushroom Tourney to make things a bit more easier for you. Well, depending on if you're able to get your different tastes, I suppose. So basically, we'll switch on to Wario and Waluigi, and we'll bring in Fly Guy as well. And just to ensure that we were able to participating in Mario Stadium. And why is it always Bowser's trying to able to face up against us? Well, mind you about the fact that we've got not only Bowser, but also Donkey Kong and Dixie Kong as well, like both the Kongs, including the King of the Koopa. So basically though, is the fact that to get the final cosmetic ball, assuming this is on the Wii U Virtual Console version, because mind you, like we said before, there's no way we can get the other 2 balls, so due to the lack of wireless play connection to your Nintendo DS's multiplayer functions on the Wii U version. So basically, if you stand on here, and then you charge your shots right there, basically though, that's essentially all you're gonna do for that particular next cosmetic ball unlockable requirement. But I will say, this is by far the hardest cosmetic ball to unlock, just because you need to be so dead on with the actual accurate shots, because otherwise, if you accidentally dunk the ball, it will not count. So you have to specifically try to able to do a charge up shot, and basically though, that's essentially what you're gonna able to try to deal with this. So anyway though, so let's talk about the forms of another person that who did somehow died. That's the forms of Annie Wilkish again. I think it's what I do apologize if I mispronounced the forms of that particular last name, so I do apologize if I sound a little bit botched over that particular stuff. But basically though, she died due to forms of cancer, and she was about 45. So because of this though, she was actually known for to be the best roles for not only Rainey Walker in 24, but also she did somehow voice Taz in The Last of Us, as in the video game. Like, you know, The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. So, relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that I'm pretty sure she also did the Part 1 remake of the original game or something. Well, mind you about the fact that matter is though, it's been a very long while since we actually last known about the forms of The Last of Us. Well, I know for a fact that for one thing, that recently we got ourselves the actual, the TV series of The Last of Us just recently. So, yeah, pretty cool, huh? Yeah, especially noticeable because, relatively speaking though, well, we're getting ourselves some more video game adaptations for not only for movies, but also TV series as well. So, yeah, pretty cool, huh? And, unfortunately though, is that another one of those, actors died, which is of course, Kenny Williams, that she was actually the most iconic actress that's known best for, playing Shirley in the incredible, popular, and still beloved sitcom, which is of course Levrian and Shivara, from the likes of the films of 1976 all the way up to 1983, and I believe about the fact the matter is though is just, well, it's still pretty sad to see them go. But either way though, because again, future is going to look a bit bleak at the moment, just because the amount of stuff is about to go away, and it's just painful, you know? And also, I suppose I should probably explain about this right from the start though, is that, well, generally speaking though, that Teen Titans Go is gonna get its 10th anniversary for the sake of at some point in this year, so, but I'm sure that Maxi will be able to mention more about it until when he goes back into Donkey Kong 64, so, yeah, because speaking of Donkey Kong, we're first up against with Donkey Kong on this match, so... But yeah, that's as far as I can say in terms of Mario Slam Basketball. Again, we did certainly enjoy this project, and I'm sure most people already enjoy this project as well. And I'm sure enough that we'll be able to actually do some more Mario Sports Let's Plays in the future. Well, I'm not exactly sure if we're able to do all of them per se, because mind you, we do usually have Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, which it still works just fine on my GameCube anyway. But as far as the forms of Mario Power Tennis are concerned, this is going to be a very tricky situation between not only on the GameCube, but also on the Wii version as well. And same applies to the forms of the 3DS or DS handheld versions of Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games series, because I know for a fact that we've already done the console variations of them. Well, mind you about the fact that we still haven't got ourselves the 3DS capture device, so... Pick yourselves can be choosers, I guess, especially that how the pricing for the 3DS's capture cards on eBay has been Steam priced, so... But I digress. And, generally speaking though, that's as far as I can say about Mario Slam Basketball, as I said before. But we do appreciate about the fact that we actually do manage to enjoy this title. Although, again, there are some frustrations about the game, such as, of course, the actual AI can be pretty stubborn sometimes. And especially noticeable, I'm still not a big fan of the forms of certain stages. Most notably with the forms of, let's just say, Daisy Garden, just because I'm not a big fan of the actual main mechanic. And also Bowser Castle, which I felt is a little bit too chaotic for my taste. Well, thankfully though, until in Mario Sports Mix, thankfully though, in Bowser Castle in that game, doesn't feel that much chaotic, so... But then again though, we'll talk more details onto that whenever we get to that Let's Play at some point, so... But yeah, everything else will be pretty much accounted for, and I suppose the last thing we want to show off is the fact that, well, after we're done with this particular match of any sorts, after dealing with only just 3-point charged up shots in that specific amount, because when it doesn't go like completely like a bright sparkle effect or something like that, mind you, it's hard to explain really, because I somehow managed to pull this off, so there we go. Naturally speaking though, is the fact that before we end off this particular Let's Play, we'll show off the last few bits and bobs here and there. Like for instance, there's the options menu, which I'll show this off briefly, but first off, as far as I've noticed, there's actually another mode that we totally ignored. That is the forms of the player rank. So basically though, this could only be accessible for like multiplayer stuff, where it just shows you the status of the actual thing itself. So, nothing special from here, especially noticeable because there was no multiplayer option on the Wii U Virtual Console re-release version, so... But there's the options menu where you can able to set your controls, as well as the forms of some callouts only for like DS download play or something like that. And in addition to that though, there's also the actual profile settings, which, oh, you can also set your hand selection within, you can either play the game on left-handed or right-handed, as well as the forms of help button, and heck, even especially noticeable, you can customize your very own profile. Like, you could obviously set your character icon, choose your favorite ball of your choice, and especially noticeable with the forms of your name to type in, and finally, the most significant thing about it is the forms of the actual comments, which you can able to actually type in your very own customized comments you can able to set onto. And finally, there's actually the ranking system, which I think that could be possibly potentially in order able to get the ranking system from that point, is that you got to play through Tony mode or something, or play through several of stages in exhibition mode or something. Well, mind you, it's been a very, very, very long time since I actually known this kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's as far as I can usually say about that particular options menu. But at least I do really enjoy the actual music in the background. It sounds more like a Final Fantasy-esque feel to it though, due to the forms of that do-do-do-do-do-do-do, like you hear right now. Yeah, it does kind of reminds me of like a Final Fantasy vibe to it, but unfortunately though, my comments doesn't seem able to get accurate spelling because, well, it seems kind of awkward. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching our Let's Play of Mario Slam Basketball for the Nintendo DS. So this is me, Ray the Flying Squirrel, and Mighty the Armadillo here. And I suppose that maybe next up, in terms of Mario sports games we'd like to tackle through next, I would say Mario Super Sluggers for the Nintendo Wii. Well, mind you, because you know what I mean. So, I'll see you guys then. Bye! See you later!